Hello and welcome everyone to our next episode of Help and Trade podcast, where we give space to entrepreneurs and their startups. My today's guest is Xavier, entrepreneur in Lausanne in Switzerland. And without further ado, Xavier, I would like you to take the stage, introduce yourself before we go on all sorts of questions that may interest the audience. So please, Xavier, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Stefan. My name is Xavier. I'm the CEO of wecount. And wecount is a company that we founded with 3 associates 18 months ago, which helps entrepreneurs run their business. We take care of their bookkeeping for them and send them regular updates on their KPIs, financial KPIs. Our solution consists of 2 pieces which are put together. The company is called wecount, but we've got a piece of software which is called YouScan, and that's exactly what our business is about. YouScan, wecount. The customers are actually just scanning their paper invoices and paper documents. All the digital documents can be uploaded directly onto our platform. And once we have all the documents to do the bookkeeping for them, we just do it and send them back their numbers, their KPIs, financial KPIs, how their turnover is doing, if they are doing profits or losses. That's basically the service in a short summary.
Perfect. The main question, of course, that everybody's interested in is, why are you doing it?
I've been an entrepreneur for the last 12 years, and I've been always utterly frustrated by how my accountant was working and how the bookkeeping process was completely out of time, out of sync with my daily business life. You would submit your documents to your bookkeeper every 3 months to get a VAT declaration filled out, and in the meantime you had no idea of how your KPIs were. So it was all a very paper-based process, and nowadays I cannot understand why we should be doing everything on paper and not digital like we do now.
Yes, there is a specialty, specifically in Switzerland, that everyone I know so far as an entrepreneurs, they all have to go through a personal accountant. Or they buy a software which has a quite expensive license, and then you have to do the accounting yourself. But that's not your field of training in like 99% of the cases. So I was really wondering, is this a usual thing? Is this like every market is like this? Or is Switzerland a bit special because everybody wants to go through accountant? Is that also sort of like a social status that you actually have to go to accountant? Wow. Is that sort of a thing? And where do you stand with wecount in this?
I think it's a very good question. If you look at the ecosystem as an entrepreneur, you do not have many options. Either you have money, and then you can actually outsource completely your process to some trustee or accountant who will do the whole work for you. Or you have the technical skills to do your accounting yourself. And then you have 2 options. Either you install a software locally on your computer, or you use a cloud-based solution. Then you have to have the know-how and skills on how to process the documents, how to enter the ledger, how you should, manage your books. And that's very technical. So for an entrepreneur nowadays, it's either or. Either you work with a trustee, or you have the skills and you do it yourself, but then it's taking a lot of time. And you're saving money, but it's taking a lot of your time, which you are not spending on developing your business. So that's where we have an edge, by offering something which is at the same time very comfortable for the entrepreneur. And at the same time, you have a full transparency on price. And we are 2 times or 3 times cheaper than a solution of working with a fiduciary or a bookkeeper.
Indeed. This is something that I was really wondering about, that there is a lot of space for interpretation in bookkeeping. From my own experience, when I was talking to some people, they were suggesting me, giving me advice, like you should probably book it this way, or you should probably book it this way, before I found your solution, which is, this is how we met. But there is the question of it, if you can automate the processes for your clients, is this sort of a thing of there is still space for interpretation somehow covered in it? Do you also have sort of like a competitive edge over it, because there are standard formulas, but there are also exceptions, and you can understand those exceptions and implement them?
Yes, absolutely. In Switzerland, we have a lot of freedom in terms of the ledger that we use. We can customize it according to the customer's need. For example, if we have a customer who's doing some consulting business and at the same time sell some educational program, Well, we can adjust the ledger, so we have two categories in which to put the figures. So if she does some consultancy work, it will go in that category of turnover, and if she does some selling of educational material, it goes in another. And you can also replicate. You can do it in euros, in francs Swiss, in Swiss francs, and everything. And then you can manage your business as you want. We have a lot of freedom in terms of the structure of your ledger. And then we do offer that personalization to our customers. So if a customer has a business which is online business of selling products, then it will have a different ledger than a customer who will do some counseling. It's very dependent on the business of the customer.
Wonderful. And you can automate this sort of processes, or is there a person that can actually or has to sit behind it and does the accounting for the person, or what is the process behind that gives you this sort of freedom to personalize?
We are trying to, well, it's a different thing, of personalizing the things. We try to streamline as much as possible, have one sort of process which we follow for all customers. But of course, everyone has a different business and has different specifics for that business. So everyone needs to be able to have their KPIs according to their own business. And that's what we try to do with our customers. So they send in their invoices and their documents. We process those documents. So we try to automatize as much as possible the reading of the documents and the pre-treatment of the document. But at the end, it's always a bookkeeper who will make the writing of the books and will pass on the right lines in the ledger. So it's a bit of both. We have some automated processes, but at the end, it's always a human being who's behind it and who will read the document and make sure that the document is passed on correctly in the bookkeeping.
Speaking of bookkeeping or a human aspect still being needed, what do you think how the future of accounting will look like?
I think more and more we'll see some automated processes come into play in bookkeeping. It's nonsense to have people reading documents and just extracting numbers of that document. So that part of the process, which is just transactional bookkeeping, has little value compared to the fact of putting the right amounts in the right categories. And that's where we have more added value. So the first brick of just reading the document and the interpretation are two things different. So the reading of the document can be automated, but I think that the interpretation of the document, where the bookkeeper's intelligence is at stake, will still for some time remain done by humans.
Understood. So the interpretation is the tricky part.
Absolutely. That's where you get the knowledge and the know-how. So that's something you can try to put rules in place. And for certain businesses, it's quite obvious. Once you start working with a business, it's always the same invoices which are coming back. It's always the same sellers that they purchase goods from. So it's very easy after a while, you get into a sort of routine and for that specific customer, this type of invoices have to be treated always in the same way. And that's important to have consistency in the bookkeeping as well. And then all the rest, everything which is new to the business has to be somewhat read and interpreted by knowing your customer's business and understanding where that invoice is coming from and what it does for him. Actually, at the beginning, we thought that we would be able to streamline everything and automate everything. But at the end, when we asked our customers what they found great about our service, it was more the human aspects of it and giving advice and being there with them and sharing them our experience and taking them by the hand and ensuring them that their bookkeeping was done properly and according to the Swiss regulations and that they can be in confidence with what we do and that they will do the work properly for them.
Mm-hmm. The sort of solution that you're offering, will it be able to expand outside of the borders of Switzerland? What will be the requirements for that?
The solution we offer could be very much expanded outside of the borders of Switzerland. We have some competitors doing the exact same things in all the other regions of the world. It's just a matter of making sure that the bookkeeping process is done according to the laws and regulation of the country. But you just need to change the engine actually to make it work in another country. So that's totally feasible.
I see wecount, you have firmly in your hands. And I already asked you about the why. And when we spoke about the why, you mentioned you're an entrepreneur for 12 years. And that it came out of frustration with handling the accounting yourself or through third parties that led you here. Now, I smell that there is something about you and entrepreneurship that we should probably tackle, which is your journey, entrepreneurial journey. Because that means you already had some businesses before, and yet you made still a decision to go for yet another one. And a huge challenge it is, because accounting is not easy. So my question on this spot would be, what were the businesses before? What led you even to start entrepreneurship? Because, as you may know, the whole podcast is all about motivating other people. And we want to show them that John around the corner can do the business, so why not you? And the same is Xavier in front of me is just a normal human being as I am. So what makes you special that made you change your mind, go for entrepreneurship, do it for 12 years, and what did you do?
Okay, we had that deal with my wife that the first one of us who would land a job in Asia, the other would quit his job and follow. And that's exactly what happened. So my wife won. So she got a job offer in Beijing, in China. And so I left my job as a corporate guy in Switzerland, and we moved the whole family to Beijing. So she was very busy with her work, you can imagine. I was busy taking care of the kids, but being in China, you are in a total different culture and total different, it's in another world. And it's very eye-opening situation. So all of a sudden you're not in your normal environment, and you start looking around and you start having ideas, and you say, okay, why don't we have that in Europe? Why don't we have this? And wouldn't that be successful in that country or that country? And one thing that came up again and again when we had visitors coming, whether it was my parents, my family, friends, each time we took someone to a park in China, they were completely amazed at outdoor fitness equipment in the parks. It was 2008, right after the Olympics. City of Beijing had made huge investments in sport facilities, and outdoor fitness equipment was the big thing at that time. And in Europe, we had no companies doing that. It was very unusual for us, Europeans, to see people doing exercise in parks, etc. And that was the moment where I had a friend looking for job ideas or business opportunities in Switzerland. And that's how we started the business 12 years ago. So, it's a matter of luck. It's a matter of having the right curiosity and smelling, feeling an opportunity. I mean, it could have failed, but we were lucky on this one. There was a market need in Europe, in Switzerland, and that's how we started the business in Switzerland.
That means the business is still running.
The business is still running. I'm not involved in the company anymore. I sold my shares to my partner 10 months ago. So he's taking care of the business in Switzerland, but I'm still in the business because I bought from him the right to sell this type of material and this type of product outside of Switzerland. So he's managing the Swiss business, and I bought from him the right to expand outside of the borders of Switzerland.
Wonderful. And that's what you also do now throughout Europe.
That's absolutely right.
Wow. So you're managing the business, which is borderless within Europe, selling outdoor equipment for parks, for exercises, while you do also wecount.
Yeah, wecount is a bootstrapped adventure. So we invested a lot of time, a lot of money in the venture, but we are not making any profit or any revenue from the company at the moment. So I still need a steady stream of income in order to be able to spend time and energy on developing wecount.
So right now you're actually being carried still by the sports equipment company?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is the name of the company, if I may ask?
The company's name for Switzerland is Urbafit, and for the international market, we just launched a new brand which is called Outletics. Outletics for outside sports, outside athletics.
That's wonderful. It reminds me of some other name that I think is a sports equipment. I'm not sure. I will come back later to you. So we talked about your start of entrepreneurship and your journey through Asia, actually, to here. Did you actually start a company already in Asia, or you waited until you came here to start it?
No, Urbafit was incorporated as I was still in Beijing.
Okay. And what were the lessons learned that you had on your way here? Because it's a bumpy road, obviously. But what was the one big lesson that you think everybody needs to understand about business or starting a business?
You know, one thing we did, we decided to go for that business of outside fitness equipment. But we partnered up with a guy who was in China as well, had his own company producing steel parts. But one mistake we did was partnering with a guy who did greenhouses. So he was used of doing some static equipment. And the first shipment of machines we sent to Switzerland, the first part we installed, luckily we donated it to the city where it was installed. But after 3 weeks, all the machines were completely broken and not usable because all the dimensions of the axles we installed were too small and too under-specified. So after 3 weeks, we had to close the whole installation down. And that's the time where you ask yourself whether you did the right choice or not. So, you know, you should not desperate when you make a mistake. You should learn from your mistake. And actually, this turned out to be a great adventure because we had to partner with some metal constructors in Geneva. And that guy, which we found out was perfect fit for us because he taught us everything we needed to know about the product itself. He became a good friend of us and he helped us out through the design of the equipment so that we would not make the same mistake twice. So in business, you're allowed to make mistakes are very welcome. You should learn from them and then improve your service or improve your product based on your mistakes in order to make progresses. But don't stop when you make a mistake. It's normal. Just keep on doing what you want to do. Believe in it.
I'm really actually mesmerized by the fact that if I understand well from like a bottom line information that passes through is that you're yourself not an engineer.
I am an engineer.
You are an engineer?
Yeah, I'm a food engineer.
Food engineer.
So I know how to cook.
But it has nothing to do with sports equipment itself.
Nothing to do with sports equipment, nothing to do with accounting, but you never know where your life leads you. I mean, and the sports equipment, it was very funny because, you know, as every small entrepreneur, when you start, you're always looking for some cheap solutions to keep your revenue or your cash. You know, as you try to burn as little money as possible. And so for your bookkeeping, you always start with a friend of a friend who does the bookkeeping for some other companies, and they'll help you out because you're nice to them, and then you pay him a pizza or you pay him some pasta and he's happy and you're all happy. And you start growing the business and your needs are evolving with time. So after a while, when you start having to fill out VAT declarations every 3 months, every quarter, you realize that the solution that you had at the beginning is not working anymore. You start having delays on submitting your quarterly VAT declarations and you get summoned by the administration and then it makes you think about your process and you start professionalizing your process. And that's actually very interesting because that's where I noticed that there was no evident solution for small entrepreneurs. Either you have a lot of money, you're making a lot of cash, and then you can pay 6,000, 8,000 francs a year to have a professional trustee doing the books for you. But if you don't have that kind of money and you don't have the skills, you're stuck in between and you have a solution that either is not optimal, or you have to spend a lot of time and energy teaching yourself into the bookkeeping process, and that's basically it.
I was aiming at specifically focusing on the fact that despite the fact that you're not an engineer, for example, of sports equipment, or you're not accountant yourself, yet you found the solution to that, and that's now your business. So I was wondering, what would be your advice for other entrepreneurs how to proceed with it? Because there is always a wall in front of you. And there is always going to be a wall. And the fact that you're not an engineer of sports equipment and yet you have a sports equipment company sounds like a pretty big deal to me. The same with the accounting. Like the fact that you're not an accountant and yet you have an accounting company seems like, well, how did you do that? How did you find the right people to do that, or the solution? How do you even overcome your own fears out of, hey, come on, I'm not an engineer. How am I supposed to deliver a solution?
I think it's a matter of curiosity. We all have skills, but it's a matter of curiosity and finding the right people to help you out where you have weaknesses. For the sports equipment, my partner in Switzerland was an ex-sportsman. So he had ideas of movements that you could perform and what would be good or not good on your physical condition and how should we divide the machines, etc. But then for the construction part, it was very interesting. You know, I've always been very curious. I studied food science, but I never really worked in the food industry. Even in the corporate world, I could not stay where I was. You know, I was always looking for other opportunities or other fields of interest to broaden my horizon. So I never learned how to be an engineer, but I had some notions of plenty of things during my studies. And with those tools, you know, you start digging around and try to understand how tubes can be welded together, how you should cut the tubes so that the forms would fit and you can weld them, and then what do you do in terms of treatment so that you prevent corrosion, and powder coating, exterior surfacing of the equipment, and it's all a mix of everything, and you have to actually ask around for people who are more skilled at that or that, and it's a bit of networking, it's a bit of curiosity, and it's being open to alternative solutions. One example, when we started outdoor fitness equipment, I had a friend working for a Swedish company producing ball bearings. And he said, well, if you want to have moving parts on your machine, you have to have special type of ball bearings, very expensive, 60 Swiss francs per piece, etc. And we said, okay, we do that. On some machines, we had something like 10 of those ball bearings. So you can imagine the price of the machine. And after a year, the machines being standing outside, you had humidity coming in and the ball bearings were not usable anymore. We had to go back to the sketchboard and start brainstorming on the situation. And now we use the same technology as the medical world with artificial hips. So, you know, and since we switched the construction, it's a very stable, very durable solution. And it's perfect for outside and putting equipment outside. We have very little maintenance on the moving parts now. So it's all a matter of, you know, talking to people, exchanging ideas and trying to make parallels between your problem and problems from other industries, and then try to replicate that into your own business.
This is so great. I'm really happy to talk to you exactly because of this overcoming attitude of challenges. One thing is that you're not engineering sports equipment or accountant yourself and you have those two companies, but also the attitude towards, I would say, even life yourself. You're a curious person. And having a broader horizon helps a lot. So my question on the spot would be, what keeps you going? What really motivates you to go for the entrepreneurship furthermore, develop the company to the next level, struggle on the way, keep on learning? What gets your grind going?
I've been always very frustrated in the corporate world of creating value for other people than myself. It's been behind my head for a long time. And I think that as someone working for companies, for corporate companies, I never could stay in one company for more than 3 years, because after a while you get bored of doing what personally I need challenges. And since I started working for myself, the first company I created and worked for 10 years, and I expect to work also a very long time for WeCount and for that new company Outletics. So it's what makes my heart beat, you know, creating value for the company and helping people solve problems, whether it's a public health problem by offering simple machines to exercise and have fun outdoor, or helping out entrepreneurs solving their problems with their bookkeeping and making sure that they're happy and that they have all the information they need to drive their business in the right direction. It's what makes my heart tick.
What is the next big challenge that is expecting you?
Well, WeCount is at a moment where we have a very good fit between our product and what the expectancies from our customers. We launched the product 18 months ago, and the feedbacks we get from the customers working with us is extremely good. So we know we put our fingers on something which is good. So now the challenge is to accelerate the development of the product and accelerate the growth of the company by acquiring more customers more rapidly. We found out over the last few months we had COVID and everything, so it was great for us because it gave us time to reflect on the processes and reflect on our experience so far. We used that specific time to start discussing with people, tried a few new strategies for customer acquisition, and I think we found out some good, promising ways of talking to our customers and acquiring new customers. So the challenge now is to, you know, accelerate the growth and at the same time accelerate the development of the product.
Is there some specific skills you're looking on the market right now? Is there some specific solution you're looking at? Or is it really just customer acquisition domains, marketing and sales?
It's a bit of customer acquisition, business development, that's for certain. And the other big challenge that we have at the same time is the development of the software. We started by a very simple application which is running on iOS to scan documents and send them directly to a server where they are kept for the whole 10 years that the customers have to maintain their archives for. So that solution is working. We have it for iOS. We have a third-party software for Android. So we have the whole backbone for the customer so that they can send us their paper documents. For the digital documents, they can upload them on the web server. That's totally fine. Our challenge at the moment in terms of development is actually to bring everything together and have on the application itself all the KPIs, all the dashboard for the customers. And that's what we are working on at the moment. So we are working really on that UScan application, and we try to make it the bookkeeper in your pocket. So you can actually send it your documents and it will get you the information on the financials of your company real time.
Sounds really worthwhile. Also like a solution that you could actually outsource, license or sell as a plug and play solution to big companies as well for their employees,
Yes, we could do that. We have also some talks with other fiduciaries who find out that the system is working fine, it's very modern, the interface that we are working on is very sleek, much nicer than what fiduciary or trustees are using for their bookkeeping, which is old school PDF documents with your balance sheet, profit and loss, etc., which is still needed, of course, for the administration and for tax reporting purposes and stuff like that. But we try to be a bit more modern in our interface with the customer. We try to listen as much as possible to their needs and include that into the development of the software. So it's a bilateral process where we try to talk to our customers, we launch new ideas, we discuss with them, gather their feedback, and before we put an official launch to the product, we try to incorporate as much feedback as we can in the product development.
Sounds like quite a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely. And we're looking forward to it.
That's great. So right now you're actually active throughout Switzerland, right?
Our main focus at the moment is still the western part of Switzerland, the French-speaking part of Switzerland, because that's where we are located. But we started working also with you in Basel, and the bookkeeping principles are the same all around Switzerland. So if we have customers from the German-speaking part, or from the French-speaking part, or Italian-speaking part, we can do something for them. Yeah, definitely.
As I mentioned, this podcast is all about motivating other entrepreneurs, and we are actually already reaching half an hour. So my question on the spot is, what would be the one thing you'd like to share with others that you think is necessary to get into entrepreneurship? What is it that people should think about, or what kind of advice you think would help them go there?
I think if you want to start being an entrepreneur, you first have to have a few ideas to try and test out. Make sure that you pitch your idea to as many people as possible and be open to the answers you get from them. Your idea might be worth nothing, but by talking with someone, you might realize that there is maybe another point that you did not think of at the beginning, and which might be actually gold for a new business. And then once you have an idea, make sure that you have the resources to go to the end. I mean, you definitely have to have enough money for that specific project you're working on. Make sure that you have the means and skills to do it, and find out the right people to work with.
This is not a scripted dialogue between us two, but you actually played perfectly into my cards when you say you need feedback. That's one of the building blocks of Help and Trade. What we're trying to achieve is that you can put your offer on our application and get feedback from people. Just see what it is worth. Is there actually someone interested into your offer? Because I am on the same board as you are, you need feedback from people that are not your family and friends to establish the value of your idea. And you need to test it before you actually go full in. Because there is plenty of news topics about successful companies, but there is even more about those which failed. And you better be sure that you try it, you test it before you actually commit with the money, for example.
Absolutely. You have to test your idea as much as possible. Even if it's just a piece of paper on which you scribbled and you laid your process on, and you can, before we had the application, we had one piece of paper showing how the screen would look like. And we went to people, hairdressers, people in the consulting business, etc. And we showed them, we said, okay, well, look, you scan, that's how your screen will look like. You send the information, we reply to you with this type of information, etc. Would that be a process that works for you or not? You don't have to have a computer to try out an idea. You can have a piece of paper and you're fine with it.
Xavier, unfortunately, half an hour. That's our format. Nevertheless, is there some information you'd like to share with the audience? At least the contact to you.
Oh yes, of course. Well, if you are an entrepreneur and you'd like to outsource your bookkeeping because you don't feel safe doing it yourself, or you feel a bit insecure, or you do not have time to do it yourself because it's very time consuming, you're welcome to check our website. It's wecount.swiss. SWISS, and contact us, send us an email, send us a request, and we'll be glad to help. Because everything we do it for our customers. We try to help them stay on top of the ball, and we do our best on that.
I'll be sure to share your link everywhere I post about our podcast for sure. Any other social media, anything that people can connect with you?
Yes, we have a page on LinkedIn. And we have also a page on Facebook, which we haven't used so much at the moment, but we'll be working on that because we think that there might be a good way of connecting with our customers.
I'll make sure to share the link by our blog post then.
Thank you, Stefan.
Xavier, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think there is something really valuable behind the WeCount company and also the outdoor sports equipment company as well. So I really thank you for your time. It was really worthwhile. I think the audience will also appreciate your kindness or your openness speaking about your experience so far. And there is something to motivate others as well. Thank you for that, Xavier.
Thank you very much, Stefan.
And dear audience, thank you for listening. It's one great episode of podcast, at least in my personal opinion. Let us know how do you like it or don't like it. At least a like helps. And connect with us via social media. You can now find us also on Instagram, where we're sharing the stories of people that are using our application, which is Help and Trade. We have a Facebook where we are sharing all sorts of posts, including the stories behind people of Help and Trade. That is Help and Trade as well. We have a Twitter account and we have a LinkedIn page as well. Just type Help and Trade online, you'll find us. The important information is that we actually launched our application recently. And we are in the open beta stage, which means we are now ready to show you something. It's not a final product, but we need the feedback. So please share your ideas and thoughts on Help and Trade, how we can improve so that we deliver an application which is worthwhile for you personally, for you as a business owner, and for starting entrepreneurs as well, because that's all in our focus. Thank you very much for that. And once again, thank you, Xavier. It was a great episode.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.